Mentor, do not force my hand. The Agate who trained me is a man of truth and courage. I know he still lives within you.
Is this the life of a hidden one, always on the move?
The creed of the Assassin Brotherhood teaches us that nothing is forbidden to us. Once, I thought that meant we were free to do as we would, to pursue our ideals no matter the cost.
Now our enemies are hidden behind crowns, walking in the shadows of kings and queens. Who are the ones that walk in the shadows for the people? We are. Something has come of all of this, and it starts right now. We must continue the fight and defend the free will of the people. And no matter how small, our brotherhood is the only hope. And our kingdom needs no crowns. What we believe in, our values, our creed will unify us.
You'll fight, and you'll fall. There will be times when you'll think you can't rise again. You'll want to stay down. But you will get up, Elpidius, because you're strong. Because our bloodline is strong. And because we always get up.
I have lived my life as best I could, not knowing its purpose, but drawn forward like a moth to a distant moon. And here at last, I discover a strange truth, that I am only a conduit for a message that eludes my understanding. Who are we, who have been so blessed to share our stories like this, to speak across centuries?
When I was very young, I was foolish enough to believe that our creed would bring an end to all these conflicts. If only I possessed the humility to say to myself, I have seen enough for one life.
Even now, faced as I am with the truth of your cold words, I refuse, because I believe things can still change. I may never succeed. The assassins may struggle another 1,000 years in vain, but we will not stop.
You now have the chance to join our ranks. We welcome all who would stand up to Starrick and his cutthroats.
Welcome to the Rooks.
For years I've been rushing around taking whatever I fancied, not giving a tinker's curse for those I hurt. And yet here I am, with riches and a reputation, feeling no wiser than when I left home. Yet when I turn around, look at the course I've run. There's not a man or woman that I love left standing beside me.
Stay my blade from the flesh of the innocent. Hide in plain sight. Never compromise the Assassin Brotherhood. These are the tenets of the creed, the principles I used to live by.
Wow, I never thought I would get to this video, but here we are. Assassin's Creed has been a part of my life for almost a decade, and I cannot believe we are here at this point. For those of you who are new here, I want to welcome you to my channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. It really does help a lot in growing the channel. If you've been here for a while, you would know that I have been playing all the Assassin's Creed games for over a year on my channel. I initially was going to cover all the games back when I was on Twitch, but then I decided to come to YouTube and start the series here all the way from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now that I have released my opinions about every single game in my video essays, which I will link in my playlist in the description down below if you want to see my thoughts about each game, and now the time has come to rank the games. I want to thank my community so much for having the patience to watch me stream these games and cover nothing but Assassin's Creed for over a year, and like most of you here, I can't wait to explore what will be happening in Assassin's Creed Mirage. In order to rank the Assassin's Creed games fairly, I think it's crucial that I cover my honest opinions and thoughts briefly about each game, from the story to the characters and the environments. Let's start from the beginning with Assassin's Creed 1. Exploring the Middle East with Altair was a lot of fun, and it's what really makes me excited about Assassin's Creed Mirage, is that we get to go back to the Middle East. Exploring Damascus, Jerusalem, Masyaf, and Acre was a lot of fun. I really like how we get to see the assassins be very proud, but also be very arrogant with having a fortress in Masyaf. It very much mirrors the way we see Altair in the beginning of the story. Now, I personally don't like Altair in the first game. He seems very unsavory, and I would attribute this a lot with how the character was written, and also by the person that voiced him. I like Altair more in Revelations because it shows us how much Altair has changed from being this stoic, cocky assassin to a real human being with emotional depth. A huge criticism that I pointed out in my video of why Assassin's Creed needs a remake is that this game was very repetitive and bland. Granted, this was Ubisoft's first attempt at something new, but I still think a lot of things that they did wrong could be fixed in a remake if it's done correctly. Now, moving on to Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations. Now, it's no secret that I love Ezio, and so do many many of the fans. I'm especially biased towards Ezio because Assassin's Creed 2 was my first introduction to the Assassin's Creed series. The best thing about these games is Ezio's story from being an arrogant rich nobleman to a man who loses everything and builds himself back up as a wise mentor who embodies the very meaning of the assassins. Nothing is true and everything is permitted. I really loved exploring all of Assassin's Creed 2 and visiting the different Italian cities and provinces in the area. Exploring Rome and Brotherhood was also fun, but the game changer was being able to recruit, mentor, and use assassins to help you in various ways. Revelations has also one of the best soundtracks of all the games and serves really well in closing out Ezio's story. Many of you might not like this, but I originally hated Assassin's Creed 3 when I first played it in 2012, but my opinion of it changed a lot when I got to play the remastered version of the game here on the channel, which I talked about more in depth in my video essay for AC3. I really began to see Connor not only as a person who wanted to protect his people, but also as a man who had suffered tragically in life from beginning of the game to the very end of the game. I got to say, being a part of the American Revolution was awesome, especially since I got to live and see all the things that I was taught in American history through Connor's eyes. Exploring the colonial life and seeing the injustice that was done to the natives and to the colonists was amazing, but seeing Connor lead the way to victory was even better. While the ending of the game was bittersweet, it made sense given the events of Connor's life. I would most definitely like to see Connor come back in another game, possibly surrounding the events of the War of 1812. Assassin's Creed Liberation was a game full of potential that could have sparked more interest in the side games of the Assassin's Creed series, but unfortunately Ubisoft missed the mark. Now, while the game itself wasn't good, there are some things I could praise the game for, the biggest being the main character Aveline. I really enjoyed Aveline as she was strong, courageous, and knew exactly for who she was fighting for. Despite of all of the tragic events that surrounded her life, I also enjoyed seeing New Orleans, and I wish Ubisoft had invested in making the city feel more alive. I believe this game's story could have been received better if it was executed correctly. I think Aveline deserves to come back to another game, perhaps with Connor, since they know each other and live in the same time period. Speaking about protagonists that deserve a sequel, no one deserves one more than our charming young sea devil Edward James Kenway. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was one of the best games I have ever played, and I know it served as a jumping point for many new players. I always wanted to be a pirate growing up, and I got to satisfy the desire thanks to this game. Having our own ship, crew, and as much gold and treasure as we wanted was definitely a big plus. What I really love about this game is its brilliant story, as we see Edward be this narcissistic, greedy pirate who cares about no one but himself, to this man who is transformed after betrayal, tragedy, and loss. Edward's road to redemption was full of anguish and agony, but he finally admits that his wants and desires were wrong. In the end, Edward learns what it means to be a good man who leads, helps, and frees his fellow man as an assassin. Assassin's Creed Rogue was an intriguing game because it gave us a perspective that we have never seen before, and that was to ask us, what if the Templars are not the bad guys? Up until this point, we have only seen the assassins as these heroes taking on the villainous Templars and upsetting their evil plans of control. This game does a great job in showing us that not everything is black and white. We get to see through the eyes of Shay Patrick Cormac how the assassins can be extreme in their measures and that not all the Templars are evil. Colonel Monroe was the example of someone who was noble, brave, courageous, and died trying to protect innocent lives. The assassins can sometimes forget about what they are fighting for and who they are fighting for. This is quite evident throughout the events of the game as we see Shay having to make these hard choices and having to kill his friends and loved ones to save people by becoming a monster himself. Ultimately, Shay did what he thought was right, but it would lead him down a path he could not foresee. Arno's story is not that dissimilar to Shay's, but Arno does not turn into a monster. He understands that the creed is a warning of how people can lose their way. Arno losing his father deeply impacted him, but also being raised by Templars unknowingly also made him realize that they were people as well, not just an objective to be stowed away or killed. Arno loses the women he loves, but learns to take down the tyranny of a man obsessed with power and knowledge, all meanwhile the city around him tears each other apart. Arno becomes the voice for the people of Paris. All of their struggles, dreams, and hopes live in him. I still have to say that Unity has the best parkour in the series and the best graphics. Now, there was a lot of problems with this game when it launched, but for the most part, I could say is that this game is pretty stable now. I won't lie, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is one of those games I feel very divisive on. While I enjoyed the witty humor of the Fry twins, there was something missing from the story, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I realized that it was missing loss. In every other game, the characters would go through a major character arc after losing someone important, and this was the first time we didn't have that. The only loss that gets mentioned is that Evie and Jacob's father died, but this happens off screen before the events of the game. Jacob and Evie throughout the entirety of the game seem so carefree and are having fun taking down the Templars in England. Syndicate doesn't have those bittersweet moments that define the other games and made them more memorable. I have no problem with games being fun, but that missing element definitely makes it one of my least favorite games in the franchise. Now, Origins would be the beginning of something new that marked the beginning of the RPG saga. Now, I know many people have mixed opinions about the RPG saga, but I for one really like them. Origins was a great addition to into the series since we literally explored the origins of the Assassin Brotherhood through Bayek and Aya. I got to say playing as Bayek and Aya was a lot of fun. The story was very solid, with the tragedy being that the Brotherhood was founded on avenging the death of their son Khemu at the hands of the Order of Ancients. We get to see how the people of Egypt are oppressed not only by the Romans, but also by the Pharaoh and the powers that be. Seeing Bayek go from avenging his son to creating an idea and symbol that will live on forever with his wife Aya was very satisfying. Bayek and Aya definitely need another game since there are still so many things that could be explored about the early beginnings of both the Levantine and Roman brotherhoods. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was the first game in the series that fully embraced being an RPG and letting players choose between a female and male protagonist. I really enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey since I grew up reading a lot of Greek mythology books as a kid, so getting to face mythical creatures such as the Minotaur was awesome. I know for many people they disliked Odyssey because of how it dived into a lot more mythological aspects, but for me it made sense, especially since they weaved it into Isu technology and pieces of Eden. While I played as both Cassandra and Alexios, I got to say I really enjoyed Cassandra more since the story is about her, since she is the canon choice. I personally love RPGs, so this game was up my alley, but for those with little to no experience with RPGs, it was rough, with many fans becoming divided, with people either loving the game or despising it. I wasn't sure what to think of Assassin's Creed Valhalla when I first saw it was announced, and since I didn't want to dive into the game right away, I waited and decided to play all of the Assassin's Creed games to get ready for Valhalla, which I'm glad I did. Valhalla really surprised me with how deep they wanted to show how Eivor's struggle was, from losing her parents, learning about Odin, creating alliances, and learning about herself. While many members of my community wanted me to play as male Eivor, I chose to let the animus choose, which I'm glad I did since the female Eivor is canon and Odin is male in the past. The dynamic between Eivor accepting Odin as being a part of her, to her struggle of becoming the leader of the Raven clan, and learning about the Isu was fantastic. This game introduced a lot more lore with different factions of Isu trying to survive in different ways. I really liked Basim, and while he was pinned to be a villain, I saw him more as an anti-hero. What Basim, Loki, and Alethea have planned, I don't know, but I'm excited to find out more in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now comes the time to rank all of the Assassin's Creed games, and here is my tier board. Some of you might be shocked, some of you may agree or disagree with my choices, and that's okay. Now, as you know, I played 13 Assassin's Creed games in the span of a year and got to review them all. Now comes the fun part in explaining why I put these games in certain categories. Let's start off with the best rank, which is the S tier. Now, these games I found to be perfect and loved every moment of them. As I explained earlier, Assassin's Creed 2 will always have a special place in my heart since it's the game that started it all for me. Getting introduced to Ezio and seeing his transformation throughout the years during the events of the second game was truly amazing. Assassin's Creed 3, while I initially hated it, I grew to see Connor differently since I played the game originally when I was a teenager, and revisiting the game as an adult, it definitely made me resonate more with Connor and understand the struggles of defending his people and his home. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag will always be not only one of the best Assassin's Creed games we have ever gotten, but also probably one of the best pirate games we will ever get. Edward's story from being a pirate to losing everything and everyone he loved truly makes you feel worthy at the end when he decides to fully join the Assassins. Bayek and Aya's story truly plucked into my heartstrings in Assassin's Creed Origins, seeing Bayek not only lose his son, but having to sacrifice his love for his wife and happiness to create the Hidden Ones to fight for the people was truly inspiring, but it was also heartbreaking. When Bayek and his allies were betrayed by Cleopatra, I was angry, but then Bayek gives this amazing rousing speech that all of this has not been for nothing and creates the Brotherhood alongside his wife Aya. While Ezio got 3 games, I truly feel that Connor, Edward, and Bayek deserve a trilogy, or at the very least another game to explore their character arcs even further. In the A tier, I put the games that were very good, but definitely not perfect. I put Assassin's Creed Brotherhood on this list because it was really good, and while I was almost tempted to put it in the S tier, I could not put it in there because it was a continuation from Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood added a lot of fun new ideas into the series, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Cassandra's story in Assassin's Creed Odyssey was a lot of fun, and I personally enjoyed the RPG aspect of Odyssey, plus visiting the ancient Greek world I always read about as a kid truly made me enjoy and embrace the game in its entirety. While Odyssey did have some flaws, I think it delivered in what it set out to make. I know this game is very divisive for the community, but for me, I liked it a lot. In the B tier are the games which I enjoyed, but they had some flaws. Assassin's Creed Revelations is a great game with one of the most amazing soundtracks ever, and while it served as the conclusion to Ezio's story as well as Altair's, there was just something about the game that felt that was missing from 2 and Brotherhood. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed exploring Istanbul and using the hook blade to zipline and kill enemies in creative ways, but the whole story with Desmond being in a coma felt kind of weird, and the way we found out more about Desmond's backstory with puzzles was definitely not engaging. Shay Patrick Cormac was definitely an interesting character, and I really liked his story in Assassin's Creed Rogue. If I had one big flaw to point out in the story, is that this game was too short and felt rushed. I really wanted to explore Shay's transformation from Assassin to Templar more. I wish we had more scenes with with Achilles and hate them, since I would have loved to learn more about them during this period of their lives. Assassin's Creed Unity was definitely a buggy mess when it launched, but after they patched most of the problems, I really enjoyed Arno's story. While Arno may not be the strongest protagonist in the series, he definitely understands what it means to follow the creed. I love the idea of an assassin having limited eagle vision and having to find ways of how to take down people with that limitation. The parkour in this game is still the best in the series, but most of the side activities and the co-op made the game feel underwhelming at times. Eivor's story was great in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I had no problem accepting her for who she was, but I know most people didn't like that Ubisoft made female Eivor canon. While I do think Ubisoft should be honest with which character is canon from the beginning, I don't think that the gender that you choose for your character necessarily takes away from the story, since the story becomes a part of us. There were some big flaws in this game, mostly being that the game was too big and overwhelming. While I enjoyed putting in over 200 hours into this game, not many people had that time to fully explore the story like I did. Up next, we got the games I put in the C tier. Now these games, while not being the worst games in the series, they definitely have a lot of problems. I put the original Assassin's Creed game on here because while it was Ubisoft's first game, they definitely could have done a better job with the game. I don't know what it is, but Ubisoft loves doing this weird trend where their first game in a new series is full of repetitive tasks while their sequel is groundbreaking and changes everything. Best example of this transition is from Watch Dogs 1 to Watch Dogs 2. I feel that Assassin's Creed 1 deserves a full remake to fix a lot of these flaws if done correctly. One big thing I pointed out in my video essay was to bring back the voice actor from Revelations to voice Altair, since I felt more connected to him and I think he did an amazing job. Assassin's Creed Syndicate was a lot of fun, but it felt pretty forgettable to me. Don't get me wrong, I love the fighting clubs, riding on carriages and exploring England during the Industrial Revolution, but one key aspect was missing, and that was the character growth. For the most part, Jacob and Evie are carefree in this game and just take out Templars like nothing. Gone is the complexity between the Templars and the Assassins' philosophies. It's like Ubisoft intentionally wanted people to forget that the Assassins can be just as bad as the Templars. This game was also the last to put the Initiates in the modern day, which was a good thing because it felt so weird being part of the Initiates program. I'm not sure if Ubisoft was trying to make it seem like anyone could join the Assassins or even become an assassin. Last but not least, we got Tier D, which the only game I could put there was Assassin's Creed Liberation. While this game is by no means the best in the series, it's not the worst either. There is no F tier because none of these games are completely terrible, but Liberation is pretty close. Now I understand that Liberation is a side game, but it's the only side game that is important and is ever mentioned in the main games. I really liked Aveline as a character, and I would like to see her again someday in a future game. This game had a lot of flaws in the story that could have been written and executed better. The mechanics felt a bit weird. The game was nothing more than a stepping stone between Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag. Playing Assassin's Creed for a year straight was fun and entertaining, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for the series. I hope the next few years of Assassin's Creed takes us to places we've never seen before, but it also introduces us back to some of the old faces that we already know and love. I have a lot of love for this franchise and also a lot of love and respect for all of you who truly love this series and are a fan like me. This video is dedicated to all my supporters around the world, to the Assassin's Creed fans, and to Ubisoft for making an amazing series. I really appreciate all of you, and if you want to help us grow, please like, subscribe, and share this video. It would mean the world to me. I hope you guys have a great day, and here's a video that YouTube recommends you to watch.